Well, you guys were on time, and I was the one that was a little bit off here today. So I appreciate it. I know this is a little bit of a change up for you, but bye week, coming off a bye week is obviously a little bit different and unique. So not that you're way ahead, but we'll go out today and we'll practice like a normal Tuesday. So it's a little bit different. Everybody always asks about the bye weeks. That sometimes you say they come at a perfect time, and then sometimes you say it's really different. Bye weeks are what they are, right? It's an opportunity. You put a plan in place before the season starts, not trying and thinking that you want to change a whole lot based on where you are with a bye week. But it's an opportunity for a couple things to kind of self-scout yourself a little bit, get back to the basics of some of the things that you got to do moving forward, and recognizing what you got to be able to do. And for us, it was another opportunity for Braden Locke to get a lot more reps now that we're in the situation where Tyler is done for the year. So in some ways, it came at a good point for that. It's a tough thing to sit on, from 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. What sits in your stomach from how you played in some situations like that you want to get back out there and play. But that's a part of growing and getting over those things as well. So it came at a good time for some of those things. People say you get healthy during a bye week. I don't know that you get healthy. You get a little bit fresher, I think, more than anything in guys' minds, both players and coaches, and if used in the right way. And I think we did. I think we did that. I thought we were able to get away a little bit. Guys went out and recruited a little bit, which can sometimes get your mind right as you get back in here and get rolling. But now it's Monday, but it's a Tuesday as we get rolling here for USC week.
Luke, I don't know if you've had time to think about this or talk about this, but Tyler would have another year, presumably. Would your hope be that?
We haven't sat and talked with him yet. Obviously, there's been a lot of things that have happened really fast. You could say the same things about James Thompson. These situations happen. You're in the midst of a season. I think guys got to be able to process themselves, where they are and what they're doing, and then we'll sit down and definitely talk with Tyler. We'll definitely sit down and talk with the James Thompson, and it is what it is, right? And you see where they are and where you are, but I know this, that we love Tyler and we love what he's done, and hopefully if there's an opportunity that he wants to come back, that we would have that. He would have that chance, and obviously we'll put a plan in place for that. And that's the way we'll go about it, obviously, with his rehab and making sure that, he is in our thoughts because he had surgery today, but he'll be in our plans as well.
Luke, you've kind of alluded to leaning maybe more on offensive line at various points, or I think that was basically kind of what you talked about. I guess I want to get an idea of kind of what that might look like. I mean, we can assume it might be more of a run game thing, but I don't know. What's kind of
22 personnel look like the old? No, I think we've always kind of thought going into the season that you had some guys back up front there that you had a lot of confidence in, and you wanted to be able to lean on those guys. And so I don't know that it changes a whole lot. You still want to be able to lean upon those guys in a lot of the things that we've done, and we've done that, I think, a little bit more in the first few weeks. We've been pretty efficient in running the football, and maybe it hasn't been as explosive as we'd like, but we went into the year and the season thinking about relying upon those guys and leaning on those guys heavily, and we'll continue to do that. And what that really looks like, I don't know that it's like a wholesale difference, right? I don't know that it's gonna, that you're built to say, okay, all of a sudden you're gonna look like the old Wisconsin. But it doesn't mean that those guys don't play a bigger role. They don't build the confidence to what we're doing, and they're the strength of who we are. It was like that, last year. That was like that, 6 weeks ago, and it's still like that today.
Luke, you mentioned getting a lot of reps for Braden. How have you seen him kind of step up in the last week? Because he was always disappointed in camp when it went the other way from that competition, but how have you seen him kind of embrace this challenge and this new role for him?
Well, I think it's leadership. I think that, some guys think that when they're not the guy that their leadership role has changed, but, I tried to explain that as you go in that room in particular, that every quarterback's a leader in his own way. And, now it's changed a little bit, meaning that, you got to walk out there, you're in front of that first huddle. So maybe it's a little bit different, but it still wasn't different than what, you were when you started camp, when you were battling. It shouldn't be much different than you were when, later in camp when, Tyler was named the starter. It just is in front of a different group, right? And whether you're, you were, doing that some way somehow with the twos, and a lot of times against the one defense. Now you're doing that with that first group, and he had done that a lot. I think that's where, if you go back and say all of spring football, those guys rolled with the ones and twos. It wasn't like, really it was Tyler's job, and he was rolling with the ones, but it was still a competition. They were balanced reps with both sides, with both the ones and the twos. And so as you look at it now, that was probably a really good thing, and it gave him a lot more opportunities to be around those guys.
What areas during the bye week defensively have you identified as areas that they can take some strides forward going into Big Ten play?
Well, it's still developing the depth up front. Finding ways to continue to be more aggressive. I mean, the game comes down to making plays, and that's where we've got to continue to find it. And it's not like something you can scheme up every single week to say, hey, this is where we're going to make a play. This is how we're going to get a sack. This is how we're going to cause a fumble. It's guys continue to build confidence. Guys playing fast. This guy's playing aggressive. This guy's winning. And so you don't want to get into that mode where everything's got to be perfect, and now we got to design some new defense, and this is what we've got to be able to do to make a play out here, and this is what we got to be able to do to make a play on a deep ball. It's about doing the ordinary things really, really well. And so you that's one of those things with a bye. You got to have some balance to not thinking that you can wholesale and make different changes that are going to create different things, as opposed to building more confidence in the things that you do.
Just how valuable was the experience that Braden got last year in a similar situation? What kind of confidence how well he did last year give you that confidence going forward?
Well, that along with a lot of spring football, with a lot of winter conditioning, meaning, your ability to lead, your ability to become a part of that group, and I mean that offensive line group that we obviously lean upon heavily through fall camp and things like that. Yeah, so a lot of his experiences give him, me, and a lot of the guys around him, a lot more confidence, because he was thrust into some really tough situations even last year. And so all those things kind of work together. I think that it also gives you a better idea of, what you need to do, how you need to adjust because of, the strengths that he has. And so that'll give us an opportunity. That's what, sometimes a little bit of the bye week, give you a chance to kind of hone in, focus in on recognizing the things that maybe, can be a little bit different based on what he does and what Tyler did. But more than anything, it comes down to him. It comes down to him having those experiences of playing, getting thrust into an Iowa game, and then going and playing against an Ohio State, and preparing the way that he had to prepare to play, and puts him right back into that position.
Luke, when you're building something, how much, if at all, do you look at the teams around you in the conference and compare yourselves to them or measure? Does that even enter your thought process?
Well, you got to be careful. Twofold, it can make you more worried in different things, but I think you're always trying to learn from how people are doing things. Right? This is a changing landscape, and the idea of building and the idea of creating and developing the program, I think today is a little bit different. And what does that mean different-wise? We don't really know, because it's still evolving in the landscape. But you are recognizing, you are seeing. There's not a whole lot you can study at this point in time. It being early in the year and having to focus on yourself. But you do take notice. And you even take notice at the things maybe you didn't notice as much before the season started, whether it was last January, and how people went about some of the things that they were doing, and then how does that look and how is that working in the landscape that we have now. So you don't have a ton of time, but if you aren't studying and you aren't looking ahead, then you're falling behind.
Cool. Luke, you mentioned Mabry's a play away now with how things shook out. Does having quarterback injuries back-to-back years maybe adjust at all how you practice to make sure a guy like him is getting the snaps he needs to be ready, or do you have to balance it and say Locke needs more to lead the team? I
don't know. I mean, yes, there's some things. I mean, I would tell you in camp that we did more, reps with the threes than we ever have. I would tell you in spring football we did more reps with the threes than we probably ever have. We actually went out and found some offensive linemen to get us, a third group for spring football, just because, we had a young guy that we knew we had to get a lot of reps for. And a lot of times in spring you don't. You don't have the ability, mostly with the big guys, to go a third group. But we felt like it was really, really important. And again, those reps are different. Those reps aren't there aren't as many things that are going on, and sometimes they can be very difficult too. But with sometimes the makeshift or new guys in the offensive line in particular. But maybe we didn't get a ton of the 2 reps this fall camp just because there was such a battle going on with Tyler. So that maybe as you look back at it might have been one of the tougher things, but it wasn't from a lack of reps, and it wasn't from the lack of studying and more working those things a little bit more mental.
I know we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week, but upon further review of the Alabama game, were there points when you looked at the tape that, despite the score, you were encouraged with?
Yes, there always are, right? I mean, 14-3 with 40 seconds to go, right, in the half, and you're in a position, to score some points. You're in a position to maybe score a touchdown. You're in a position to get the thing to halftime and get it to the second half like you envisioned, and so there's some positives right there. There's some plays out there. Obviously the 2 turnovers are what hurt, but there were some explosive runs and some opportunities for some greater explosive runs that they show you that you can lean upon those guys up front a little bit more. But it comes down to making plays, right? I mean, we just kind of hit on it a little bit there in the past. I think when you look back at it, you say, okay, there's opportunities to make plays. We got to make them. And I think that the guys are in positions to make some of those plays, and we just got to do a better job. They got to have the confidence. They got to be a little bit more aggressive. But there's definitely things that we did well that didn't show up nearly as much because of the nature of the game and how it ended up.
Looking into the backup quarterback here the last 2 seasons, in your experience at Cincinnati, Ohio State, is that something that's occurred pretty frequently? Is that just kind of a natural thing, especially at quarterback, where at some point the backup's going to be needed during the season?
I guess I've been pretty fortunate. We had it once, I think, in my experience in Columbus. Happened really early when Braxton Miller went down. But that was pretty much it, I think, in the whole time there. And first year at UC, we were kind of going back and forth with some guys, but never really had an injury. So we've been very fortunate. We've had some dings here and there. We had some guys that we sat, our quarterback at Cincinnati, I think, the last game of the year, knowing that we were going to be back in the championship game the following, just because he had a bad shoulder. But no, it's been a situation that's been new and a little bit tougher to handle. But I guess it just reminds you of how fragile it is, right? I mean, that position in particular, I think in college, like I've said, for the last year and a half, is obviously very important. It is in every level. But I mean, maintaining a room in college football right now and at the quarterback position is difficult, and this shows it and how important it really is when injuries do occur. But no, it's something that's uniquely been a little new to me, and I guess I look back and I realize how fortunate I've been in some of those situations.
When we talked to Phil a couple weeks ago, he mentioned some of the stuff that you were talking about before, different personnel groups, and the way that the offense looks. He also said that I'm just here to please Coach Fickell. Are you guys on the same page in terms of what the offense wants to look like or what you want it to look like? And was there a process maybe to get there?
Well, there's always a process. I mean, I reflect back on the times at Cincinnati, right? I mean, those defensive guys have some vision of things that you want to see, but I also know that I couldn't do a better job, and that's the hard part, right? What's too much and what's meddling too much. I don't try to do that. I try to say, hey, we trust you. This is what we want. This is how we go about it. A lot of the questions are asked, whether it's spring football and fall camp, and knowing how we're moving and growing and adjusting. And so that's where it is. I mean, we all have this vision, that the ball moves more, that bigger plays are made. How they're made, I'm saying it's not some special play. That's the thing that I think gets lost in the whole grand scheme of things, right? I mean, that it's some special play that you call. No, it's called execution. It's called guys winning one-on-ones. I mean, I would tell you, and this is, what we talked about, there's 2 plays. I want to say play 6, but it's not, because I messed it up. maybe it's play 9 and play 13, or play 9 and play 17 in the last game, that are runs that one's an 11-yard run maybe and one's a 13-yard run, that I'm just, that they're, a couple inches, a couple feet away from a lot bigger than that, meaning that a guy falls off of a guy playing man coverage and, ends up tackling a guy for 11 yards when, dang, I don't know how he came off of his man. There's another one where a guy comes off the slot receiver out there to the field where even a defense guy like that guy's not making a play in the middle of the field, where you make a 12, 13-yard gain and you're that far from maybe that thing going, 30, 40, maybe further. And so I just remind, even when I go in there and remind them, like, that the plays are there. We just got to find ways to finish. We got to find ways to understand that effort is going to overcome a lot of those things. So the vision of bigger plays, yes, but it's not in any different way. And that's where we've got to continue to grow to find. It's just like defensively in the off week or the bye week. Did you guys do something different? No, it's hard. You got to do the ordinary things a lot better to make them look extraordinary. And I think that's where we are with all that we're doing.
A couple more. English.
With the first road trip to California, it's obviously no small feat to get a Division I football team from Wisconsin to California. Are there any practical steps that you guys have to take to, live in the expanded Big Ten?
We're going to have to miss class, which is not normal in college football, I think. So maybe a Friday where they have to, they've been in a routine where it's been able to, be a nice Friday, relaxing a little bit more in the sense that we weren't in here till 12:30 as a player. Coaches get to, be with the family early morning on Friday just by nature, and traveling to the West Coast means Friday morning is going to come really quick, and we got to get in here. The guys got to, get here and get ready to roll, and so that's different. But is it completely different? No. I mean, if you were going to the East Coast, it would still be early. It just maybe wouldn't be as early. So I don't think, that we're trying to go about things a whole lot different. So road trips are road trips, and this one's just a little bit further.
Okay.
Luke, there's some, with Wisconsin right now, the current roster, the current coaching staff, connections to Southern Cal. Do you have to have any conversations with Tackett or CJ or Alex, who's let go, about this game or about heading back to Southern California and the process with that?
No, I mean, I will to CJ, I will to Tackett, just to make sure they understand, like, this isn't, this is about Wisconsin versus USC. And don't make it about anything different. I know that we all can have some type of feeling, but when the ball's kicked off, it doesn't matter. It's still about playing football. And I've been in situations where even when I was at Cincinnati, we had transfer guys that come from places that you go and you play, and I know deep down inside those things are, sometimes can be difficult. So, I'll talk to them about them just to make sure that they understand that, this nothing different. Let's just do the things that we do and make sure it's about Wisconsin, make sure it's about the battle against USC and it's on the football field. And the good thing is we got really mature guys that understand that too, but I'm also, it's not that there's not something deep down inside there that, is motivating as well for them.
Last two. Rohan.
Coach, one of the things when we spoke to Braden after the game last week, or the week before, he said one of the things he works best at is playing up-tempo. Is that something you kind of emphasized in practice, this past week? And how do you kind of make sure he kind of gets into a rhythm playing up-tempo?
Well, it is. I think that, that's part of the trying to figure out what each guy does a little bit better than the other. And Braden is a guy. He's a guy that knows the offense. He's a guy that can handle things to go, probably at a greater tempo. So there'll be things that we'll adjust to him. How much, I don't know. A lot of that tempo stuff is dictated sometimes by the flow of the game too, and the plan of the game. And that's where, there's a balance to what it is that we have to be able to do. But I would say that a part of the strengths of Braden is understanding the offense, being able to execute it at a high level at a faster pace. And that'll be something that, I think that he can do and can do and will do well.
Last one right here, Cole.
Luke, the pass rush has been something that you've said, like, you want to see some more out of as you get going here, but do you think as you went back and self-scouted, do you see scheme things you guys have to change, or is it just guys have to execute and get off some of those blocks?
That's kind of a tougher question sometimes, because if you say that, then you're putting it on just anything in particular. It's all about the ability to, to win, right? I mean, whether that's, hey, it's the pass rush, or hey, it's sometimes sacks are the most misleading stat in football. But with that being said, also that we know that we have to win one-on-one battles. Whether that's pass rush, whether that's running the ball, or whether that's blocking. And that's something that we haven't done a great job of. And obviously games have dictated a little bit of that. There hasn't been as much, I would say, just opportunities that, hey, it's a 2-minute situation, everybody's got their ears pinned back. Hey, it's late in the game, so there's some different situations. But all in all, we know that both on offense and defense, finding ways to give our guys the ability to be aggressive so that they can win, so that they can make plays, is what we're all searching. How that's done in different ways, yeah. But our ability to, as a whole, to allow them to be more aggressive is something that we focused on.